And now I'd like to invite Shell is the world energy giant leading in oil sales. It implements the newest technologies and invests into renewable energy, car charging, and new technologies lowering the emissions of CO2. Right now, they're investing most of the money into sustainability, ensuring that sustainability is included into each aspect of the business. And now we're going to have our next presenter, Gavin Warner, cover the topic of sustainability at Shell.
I grew up in the tip of Southern Africa, and this is my first visit to the Baltics. And I learned two things this morning. The first one when I got up was you need to pack more clothes. It's definitely not the same as Africa. And the second thing I learned is that if you use a heavy-duty engine oil, you might want to consider one that works at cold temperatures around 78% better performance. Just saying. I'm not sure if there are any brands that offer that, but maybe there are. The purpose at Shell is to power progress by providing more and cleaner energy. So that's been the purpose for some time at the business. And in 2021, Shell launched Powering Progress, which is our strategy towards net zero emissions by 2050. And the Shell Lubricants business, being a small part of that business, aligns to much of those goals. So today I'll reference a little bit about what Shell is doing, and then focus on what we're doing as a lubricants business. So, first of all, this is an eye test. As a global company, our legal team require we put out disclaimers when we talk about net zero, and so this is your chance to see if you need new specs, but I will not be reading this today, and for those who did manage to read it, there'll be questions at the end. So, coming back to Powering Progress, the strategy for Shell. So Powering Progress has four main goals. The first one is around delivering shareholder value, and that is around creating that financial health and strength for us to be able to invest in the transition to net zero by 2050. The second goal is focused on net zero emissions itself, and that is around working with customers to decarbonize their organizations, whether that be in transport or any other sector in the globe. So that's very much around collaboration and working to provide solutions to decarbonize with our partners. And then Powering Lives is around providing those products and services that enable people to live their lives in a way in which they have access to energy, and also to look at an inclusive society and put safety at the heart of everything we do. And we certainly also drive a strong diversity inclusion program at Shell. And then, last but not least, and important for a lubricants business, is respecting nature. And respecting nature is all about protecting nature, reducing waste, and having a positive contribution to biodiversity. So this becomes important in a moment when I talk about what we actually do in our lubricants business. So if you have any interest in understanding how Shell are tackling climate change and what we're doing in terms of our strategy, there's plenty of information on shell.com, and there's some really interesting anecdotes and proof points on how we're approaching this. So the climate target itself is all around looking at both the scope 1 and 2 emissions. Those are the emissions associated with what we produce and how we make our products. And that means things in our direct control as well as all the energy or the emissions associated with the electricity or energy we buy from others. But it goes beyond that to include scope 3, which is all the emissions linked to the use of our fuels and products, energy products, as well as those that we sell as a trading business. So it's a very broad and ambitious goal, and that's why it's so critically important we do collaborate and work with others to achieve it. And so our approach to emissions management is really a 3-tier approach. So it's what can we do to avoid emissions in the first place against a reference. Second is around what we can do to reduce emissions. And then finally, it's around compensation, particularly for hard-to-abate sectors, albeit aviation, or where technology or solutions haven't caught up enough, and as an immediate solution, one could look at credits or carbon compensation. So that's the approach we take as a company, and from a lubricants business point of view, we follow a lot of that. So first of all, in decarbonization, the most important role lubricants can play in terms of helping customers is around in-use. So the performance benefits of a good lubricant will allow energy efficiency, fuel efficiencies, and so on. So that's where most of our effort and energy goes, is trying to work out how we deliver benefits and can start to claim not only performance, but CO2 reduction or reduced waste benefits for the customers who use lubricants from us. Obviously, there are lots of things we do in our own control. That's reducing emissions in our blending plants. We use renewable electricity, and there are plenty of things we do around our own operational efficiencies. We do use compensation. We do use credits for some of our customers and some of our lubricants products, where people want to compensate for the emissions linked to the use of that in the first place. A big play from a lubricants business is environmentally acceptable lubricants, certainly becoming very relevant for marine, also not just the obvious agricultural applications. And we acquired the Shell Panelin business, and next year we'll be marketing Shell Panelin products, which are much wider range of environmentally acceptable lubricants as part of our way to address the environmental challenges. And then, of course, circular economy is an important concept for us because we're not a fuel or energy business. We are selling products. And therefore, if you sell products, you need to consider what happens at end of life. We package them, there's waste oil at end of life, so the opportunity for us to bring back recycled plastic, to look at waste feedstocks, to find technologies that deliver equal performance, but at the same time with lower emissions using alternatives, is therefore a really, really important thing that we're driving in terms of circular economy. So let's go to just an example looking at commercial road transport. Last year we joined this forum and a colleague talked about fuels. Today I'm focusing only on lubricants. But when it comes to commercial road transport, the heavy-duty sector alone there accounts for around 25% of the emissions of road transport. So with the demand, you've heard stories around the trajectory, there's certainly an opportunity to begin to address that. And you will have also heard this morning that there's a multitude of solutions that might be at play, but one doesn't quite know in which markets, which one will show up and be the solution. So from a Shell perspective, we look at and consider all the options, and there's particular focus at the moment around things like bio-LNG, sustainable aviation fuel outside of this sector. So what we have done, and in 2018, we set out to develop a demonstration, a vehicle that could show that you could achieve freight ton efficiency, but also CO2 reduction using existing technology. And so the first Starship vehicle that was developed was looking at a diesel engine, and that demonstrated examples of how we could improve efficiencies. And then this year, we launched a gas engine example, the Starship 3, which attempted to do the same thing. And again, looking at existing technologies to try and find solutions for those who are currently in the heavy-duty industry. I couldn't resist but show a picture of the interior. I thought if I'm going to be driving a vehicle, I wouldn't mind driving one that feels like a spaceship. But it was an incredible concept vehicle. And these are some of the results. So the first vehicle in 2018 delivered sort of up to or more than 3 times in terms of freight ton efficiency versus a US average diesel vehicle. And then the same sort of results for the LNG vehicle. Now here I've shown the per gallon basis. I should have called up the CO2 one. The results in terms of CO2 emissions reduction are very similar. So 2.5 to 3 times improvements over the average. And all of this has been done looking at things like aerodynamics, high performance GTL-based lubricants, gear oils, and so on. So it really isn't about things that have not been invented or solved yet. So it's something to really consider for today. The other point to raise, we've seen some statistics and we've looked at the trajectory for electricity or electric vehicles and so on. But if you look at some of the forecasts around what the parking lot's still going to look like, there are going to be a lot of heavy-duty diesel vehicles around for quite some time. And so the reason I raise that, again, is because from a sort of today point of view, there are things that you could do, which means we don't have to wait for all the technologies and all the systems to change to already work on emissions reduction. And the sorts of things that you can do are the use of sort of higher performing low viscosity oils, aerodynamics, operational modifications, and driver behavior change. So there is an opportunity to begin today, and we don't have to wait for everything to be solved tomorrow to already begin to contribute. So thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day.